Hey, good morning. We're on the Halacha of sorting, and we're on page 138 in the book of Shmirat HaShabbat. Now we're going to go to the liquids. What we have in a liquid, when we have something that is unwanted. So let's take, going in the order of the book, using a strainer in the sink. The purpose of the strainer is to catch all the waste that should not go down the drain. Can we do that on Shabbos? So the answer is yes, because everything is waste. We're not trying to save anything. You're just trying to prevent it from going down the drain. So you could empty out your dishes, whatever else you want, into the sink, and then take the drain, the strainer of the drain, and then throw that out in the garbage. Now, what about using a filter? And the same is also when it comes to the faucets here, we usually have a spigot that is actually a filter. If you take off the spigot, and usually in the kitchen sink, there are little screens and charcoal and everything else that's filtering out our water. Can we use that on Shabbos? The answer is yes, and why? Why isn't that considered a filter that's taking, obviously, if there would be no purpose for it, we would not have it. So there is a reason why we have it there. Why do we have that filter? The same thing would also be with Brita. Can you use a container on Shabbos? Again, if you would not want that filter there, you wouldn't have that extra money that you're spending to make a filter. So why would that be permissible? Any thought?
Because the water, originally the water is already drinkable.
That's right. Okay. Since it's drinkable as is, what you're just refining it, something that is drinkable as is, so filtering it out would be permissible. Same would be when you have the, let's say apple cider is a little thicker. It's not apple juice, but apple cider. If someone wants to filter the apple cider, there too, you can drink the apple cider as is, then you could filter it as well. Same thing would be with orange juice that they sell commercially with pulp. Obviously, if they sell it with pulp, it is something that is drinkable. Again, if you want to filter it out, then you would be permitted to do that as well. So anything that is drinkable as is to begin with, so improving it would not be an issue. However, there are some countries where there's actually sand in the water, that when they use the water from the sink, there's actually sand coming out. Here, it would be an issue on Shabbos. Again, you would not drink the water with the sand. You definitely want to remove the sand from the water there. The only option would be to have filtered water before Shabbos. Prepare. Again, you could use the sink if you wish to wash your dishes, if you don't mind using it, if that's the way you use it throughout the week, without a filter, then on Shabbos, that would not be an issue. But using it with a filter on Shabbos would be an issue because you're actually making the water drinkable, usable on Shabbos, and therefore you would have to have a supply of water from before Shabbos.
Wouldn't it be pikuel nefesh though, because you can't drink the sand? So you would have to drink?
No, you would, since you have the option of preparing it before Shabbos, it would be with you have the option.
But
We're not speaking about a life-threatening situation. So since you have the option, you notice every week this is the same story. So I guess in some places they actually have the bottled water that they have. You just get a larger container Now we have a situation where you have tea leaves. This is on the bottom of it, 138. You have tea leaves in teapots. So you have those who have tea essence. You prepare before Shabbos. You pour hot water on the tea leaves. They become cooked, and now they are at the bottom of your teapot. Are you allowed to use this teapot on Shabbos? What's the issue? You're pouring off the water, and you'll come to a point where you're going to, if you would continue to pour, you would pour out all the liquid, and you would have your tea leaves remaining at the bottom. Is that an issue? Or let's take our tea bag. Is there an issue of taking a tea bag out of the water where you're going to have the dripping of the tea bag over your cup? Is that an issue?
You need to take some liquid with this tea.
Okay, so as long as we don't take it out of solution, nothing was done. So let's take back to the teapot with the tea leaves that are on the bottom. So as long as you keep pouring and you're just pouring the liquid, you did not get to the dregs, you did not get to the tea leaves that are on the bottom, you still have it in solution, nothing was changed. So the solution is still there, the tea leaves are together with the liquid, that would be permissible. The same is also what Esther told us about the tea bag. When you're taking it out, if you take it out together with some water, so again, the tea bag is not dripping anything, it's still together with the liquid that's in your spoon, and therefore that too would be permissible. Another thing to do, if you don't want to take out with a spoon, you could pour out the tea and then leave the tea bag with some liquid at the bottom of your cup if you wish to do it that way. So what we're doing is we're not trying to take it out of solution, that the tea bag should be doing the filtering. In that case, you don't want the tea leaves in your mouth. If that's the case, so then we would not use, so we would not take it out of solution. So both, again, that's with the pouring the tea until you come to the tea bag, leave some of it together with the water, taking out the tea bag together with, in a spoon, together with some liquid, that all would be the same. Now there's something in the liquid that they give the example of the fly in the tea. So I think nowadays, what you would do is dump the whole thing. Would people take in the weekdays, would people take the fly out and then drink the rest of the tea? Would that be an issue? Yes, no?
You can't take the bag out of.
No, yeah, I know. I'm not speaking the weekdays now. I'm asking in the weekdays. How would you treat this beverage?
I would dump the whole thing.
You would dump the whole thing. Anyone would be removed. So again, let's say.
Some people would take just the fly out.
Okay, so let's make it a little more, not as. What happens if you're sitting in the sukkah and some of the schach falls into your tea or your soup? In that case, that's more of the weekdays. Again, people might just take it out or we have, let's say there's an onion floating on top of your soup, and you don't like that onion that's floating on top. There would be more of that there you would remove if you don't like the onion, you would remove the onion during the week, and that would not be it. You would have the rest of the soup. I mean, it's a vegetable that's a part of your soup.
You're allowed to probably remove more of the soup to remove on Shabbos.
Okay, so now on Shabbos, what do we do? With our understanding being that you want to drink the rest of the liquid. That's our understanding in this case. So the classical answer would be you take some of the liquid together with whatever is unwanted. So you didn't take it out of solution, you throw it out. But actually, if it is a fly, when you're taking together with a liquid, would you have that liquid later? Definitely no. So really what you're doing is you're taking also the liquid that you're taking together with the fly, you're making that all into waste. So the Alter Rebbe has in Shulchan Aruch, he speaks about the solution of taking out whatever the unwanted with some liquid together, leaving it in solution. But then in the Siddur, he's more strict about it. In the Siddur, he says that one should not do it in that way. Rather, what you should do is pour from the container until whatever you don't want goes out. But it's not considered separating the unwanted from the wanted, but rather what you want is in your hand that you're keeping. It would be just like, I guess you have the magician who has everything on a tablecloth, and have all the things, and then he wants the tablecloth, so he pulls the tablecloth. Whatever he doesn't want stays on the table. You have such a trick? Okay, so this is the same idea. When he's taking what he wants. What does he want? He wants the tablecloth. What does he want to leave behind? Whatever was on the tablecloth. This would be the same idea that what you want is in your hand. That's what you're keeping. And so actually, it is if you're pulling it back. Whatever you don't want is now leaving the container, and you're keeping what you want and leaving what you don't want in air or wherever you suspended it over the sink. So that would be the following the rule that we could only take what you want and leave what you don't want behind. So this is what the Alter Rebbe says, that you should, rather than taking out with a spoon some of the unwanted, we we do take it the other way around. And he does say that if one wants to make it easier for themselves, you could blow on the unwanted to come to the edge of your cup and then pour it out, so you won't be pouring everything out until you get to it. So he says the fact that you are leaving it in the liquid, it's just going from one side to the other, that would not be a part of our malacha, where we have winnowing or removing something by breath, which we had malacha before. It would not go into that category, but because you're just pushing it to the edge of the container, and then you're pouring it out, again, keeping what you want in your hand and leaving what you don't want behind. So as long as there is something that is in solution, as long as you leave it still in the object that you don't want together in solution, you haven't separated it out, that would be fine. This was on page 140. 141 is what happens if you selected something that you looking for a selection. This is on the bottom of 141. You selected a fruit or another type of food, then you realized that it's not what you wanted. You took accidentally the apple instead of the orange. If that was something that you thought was good, that's what you wanted. So nothing wrong was done because your intention was to take what you wanted. The fact that you want to take something else, so that would be fine. You don't have to put this one back. You could just leave it out. But so this would also be, we spoke about that this malach of sorting is not only when it comes to food items or liquid items, it also applies to non-food items as well. So we spoke about cutlery, different sizes. The same thing would be with dishes, different sizes. The same thing is also with garments and different kinds of garments. Even if it is the same, let's say, using, we have a drawer where the drawer would combine everything together, and that would be whatever's inside would be one unit. Just like we spoke about when you have a platter, even though every item is in its own row, but the fact that it's on one platter, that makes it together as one unit, that becomes halachically like a mixture. Therefore, separating what you don't want separating what you don't want would go into this malacha. Separating it for later use is malacha, even though everything is edible. The fact that you're taking different categories and putting them away because of their categories. So we spoke about a platter of cold cuts, where you have pastrami, bologna, salami, and roast beef, and they're all in different rows. So if you're going to be using everything now, there's no issue of taking each category and putting them in different dishes. If you want to put it away in the refrigerator and you want to put them away according to categories, that becomes a selection. That becomes the malacha of borer. So what you could do is only take it random, but taking each category and putting that away, even though each one is all lined up, but the fact that they're in one platter, that unifies them all and becomes halachically a mixture. So, so now the same would also be with there are different opinions about a closet. We take the more strict opinion that the closet also unites everything that's there, and therefore, when you're looking for an outfit, so you would not Friday night, if you're looking to what you want to wear the next day, Friday night you would not take out all the outfits that you want and then put that away. So in the morning you'd be able to get dressed without having to make the great decisions of what you want to wear. You had a whole night to think about if this is the right selection or not, but rather you would take out what you want and you're ready to wear it. What happens if you take out a garment and you see this is what you intended to wear, but then you take it out and you see that it's creased, crumpled, whatever it is, you don't want to wear it. Was there anything wrong with taking it out? The fact that this is something that you did want to wear, so that was your intentions was good, so that's fine.
Are you allowed to put it back?
You could put it back in, right? Putting back something into a mixture is permissible. It's taking out. So putting it back in the closet is no issue. You may choose something else. Again, look to see what you want and then take that one out.
Are you allowed to put a lot of, example, you took a lot of outfits out before Shabbos?
Yeah, so
Are
then,
you allowed to put them back in?
yes,
during
okay.
Shabbos?
Again, putting them back would be tidying up the house for Shabbos, if that's what you want to do.
But it's on Shabbos.
It's on Shabbos itself, right? If you wanted to tidy up the house, you don't want them lying around wherever you place them before Shabbos, you put them all into the closet. So that would be fine because you want to tidy up your house. On Shabbos, you could put it back. We would not sort out our laundry
Right.
on Shabbos. You could take everything and put that in a drawer, put everything into the closet as is. If it's laundry that has to be sorted, so sorting on Shabbos, we would not take each one out and put them away in their proper place. We would put everything out as is. But if there are clothes lying around and you want to tidy up the house, that would be permissible. Simply in a halacha, we speak about not making your bed. At one point, I guess, the bedroom was sort of not a place that you walked in all Shabbos. So it didn't make a difference. So why are you doing it? So make it easier for you when you're ready to go to sleep. Everything should be all set up. You shouldn't have to bother. Nowadays, I think the bedroom is also a room that you do use on Shabbos itself. And therefore, you want the room to look presentable, to be in a nice way. So then you are permitted to also make your bed, tidy up your room, because you're doing it for the Shabbos itself. It's not an activity that you're doing for after Shabbos. Okay, so this malacha is a very, one should read this. Again, sorting is something that's quite common. It's every Shabbos, there's something that you have to make a decision. Is it sorting or not? So I would advise that to read this chapter again. We've done this in a number of weeks. So to put it all together again, and I think it'll be easier now just to put everything in proper perspective. Yes, Esther?
About clothes, can we put perfume on Shabbos on our clothes?
We're going to learn about it specifically. We cannot put perfume on clothes. Everything on the body. Again, there are different opinions about it. The Alter Rebbe takes the more strict opinion about it. You may put perfume on before Shabbos, and if it's a good perfume, I guess it will be more lasting. Same thing would be with our makeup. Again, whatever you put on before Shabbos. I think so sometimes when they put Shabbos makeup, it means that's going to last if you put it on before Shabbos. You have to find out what they mean when they say Shabbos makeup. Does it mean that it's permissible to put on Shabbos? Or is it a lipstick that is going to last more than 24 hours. So again, this is something that we're going to speak specifically at the malacha that has to do with makeup, with dyeing. And again, this is something that one would have to check specifically with their halachic authority that they consult with, if this actually does meet the requirement of being able to be used on Shabbos or not. It's a very, very sensitive subject. The next malacha is we're going through the process. The Mishnah speaks about making a bread. And even though in the Mishkan it was the making of the dyes, most people do not handle dye. So therefore, the Mishnah gives an example that people were able to relate to, because making bread was something that was common. So therefore, we go through the steps of plowing, preparing the ground, then planting, then reaping, cutting the produce. Then it was winnowed to remove the shell. Then we had the selecting. And now comes the next step is we have now the herbs, or we have now the grain, and we want to make it into flour if it is speaking about the grain. We want to make now flour. That's the next step. When it comes to the herbs, also they were going to grind it and make it into a powder. So now the next step is taking that which grows from the ground and breaking it down to small pieces. In the Mishkan, it was to make it into a powder. And then we also have that breaking something into to smaller pieces. This would go into this malacha. So it would be making something into a powder, as was done in the Mishkan. And then we have reducing something large that grows from the ground to smaller pieces, which would include shredding. And then we have grating, using a grater and breaking down the fruits or vegetables to small pieces. Then we have chopping it to small pieces. Then we have dicing. And then we have slicing to very thin, lengthwise, to slivers. Some people like to do that in the weekdays with cucumbers, making very, very thin cucumber slices. Sometimes they will use it as a wrap to other vegetables to make it fancy. But is that a part of this malacha, making something into small pieces? According to the Tzemach Tzedek, third Lubavitcher Rebbe, he also considers that it's not only when it's in all directions, when we speak about dicing, which that is chopping things, or chopping, where you actually chop the onions, where you're actually chopping them down to small pieces, or dicing, where you're taking and cutting the vegetables into small pieces. But he also considers making very thin slivers, even it's lengthwise, but it's not in all directions. That too would go into this category that we cannot do that on Shabbos. So the actual malacha tochen is grinding. That would be with grinding in a mill, making it into a powder. But included in this would be also all of the other activities that we've mentioned. So the cutting into small pieces, which would be shredding, grating, chopping, dicing, and even cutting into small pieces. So when we're making a salad, again, if you want to make it before Shabbos, there is no issue. If you're doing it on Shabbos itself, so how small is small? So usually they say an Israeli salad is considered small. Someone's able to visualize what an Israeli salad is. So making pieces bigger than the Israeli salad, that would be the size that one would make on Shabbos. If they're making a salad where they want to make these pieces small, then that would be the way to go. A little bigger than an Israeli salad. Now, using tools. So here we have the toldos would also be chopping vegetables with very finely with a knife. That would also be included. Page 144, sawing wood, making it into sawdust, filing metal, making it into dust. And The rabbinic prohibition would be making something that's for medicinal use, because grinding was something that was common to make medicines. We'll speak about that in more detail. Now, for sure, chopping something, this on page 144, chopping something for later use is a malacha. So if someone is making it, now also the malacha applies to that which grows from that which comes from the ground. That's what we did speak about. The trees with sawdust, trees come from the ground, that would also be included. But things that do not grow from the ground, this malacha does not apply. So therefore, all other food items that do not come from the ground, so cutting them fine would not be an issue. That would include the fish, tuna fish, eggs, chopping that small, cheese, meat. So all of this could be done on Shabbos if there's no other issue involved. And here again, you're not bound by any time frame. If you want to cut up the other food items, as long as it's going to be used for Shabbos, you're not limited when you're going to do it. If you want to do something Friday night on Shabbos, you want to cut that meat into small pieces for tomorrow, or fish, or cheese, or eggs, all of these things could be done as long as it's going to be used for Shabbos. So the issue of cutting it finely is not something that we're concerned about. But the question is, what do you do with it after that? That's going to be another issue, and that we're going to speak about when it comes to another malacha. That would be if you want to add some other ingredient to the eggs, or tuna, or liver, or you're going to add oil or mayonnaise, and you're going to make it into a dough-like substance. That we're going to cover when we speak about making a dough. So this is something to have in mind. So when we're saying over here that you can chop it, you can cut it as fine as you want, it's not an issue. That's only when we're speaking about having these foods without adding other ingredients. So the eggs were made fine, the cheese, the meat, the fish, the tuna, we're leaving it as is, so there's no issue involved. It's only when we're going to add other ingredients, that's when we're going to speak about the permissible way of doing it. And of course, it would be if everything is noticeable where it wasn't made fine. So adding other ingredients, you're not made it into one mass. That's going to be a dough-like substance. So what we're concerned about, not making a binder that's going to combine all the small pieces and make that into one lump. So back to here, we are permitted to do all of this with things that do not grow from the ground, but it should be done with a knife, not with a special tool. Now, you aren't permitted to cut it with a knife. You can make the eggs as fine, as thin as you want. Now, you have this contraption. I don't know if anyone uses it. You have this, an egg slicer. Opens up, you put the egg in, the hard-boiled egg, you put it down. Could that be used on Shabbos? It's a slicer, and therefore that takes the place of a knife, and that would be permissible to use on Shabbos because it's not a tool that's breaking it down to small pieces. It's not a grater. It's not a masher. It's not a, what else do we have? That's that would go into this category. It's not a chopper, so this is a slicer, so that would be permissible. All the other tools that are specifically for chopping things up could not be used. So you have those choppers that come and you put it into a container. It has a chopper that usually use it for onions or garlic. So using that special tool, that would not be permissible. We have the grater, the grinder. Does anyone know about the grinder that you have the electric grinders, but then there used to be the hand grinders. Does anyone still remember that?
I don't have it, but I remember.
They used to have the hand grinder where people actually ground it. You attached it to your table, and you would make your, to make chopped meat for your burgers, or and you would do the same thing, fish. If you want to have gefilte fish, you would grind your own fish. So that's a different generation that had that. So using that on Shabbos cannot be done. Now, cutting something fine right before eating, is that considered manner of eating, or is that goes into that malacha? The Alter Rebbe in Shulchan Aruch brings both opinions, and he says one should be strict about it, not to cut up vegetables fine, like the onions, if you want to have it for your salad, not to cut them fine, rather making bigger pieces. However, what happens if you go to someone's house and you see them in the kitchen, they're chopping, they're going to be making an egg salad that they're going to be making in a permissible way, but you see them chopping up the onions fine, or the radishes, or whatever other vegetable that's doing it fine, and they're doing it for the meal that's here. Should you tell them anything? I learned in Machon that chopping up, we're now bordering with a malacha of grinding. Should you tell them anything? And the answer is no, because they're not transgressing. There's not a transgression that we say that's definitely forbidden, because if you're doing it before your meal, there are halachic authorities that say that's a manner of eating rather than the malacha of grinding. If you do it for a later time, that is grinding. If you're doing it right before eating, that's considered a manner of eating. So since there are authorities that say that cutting something fine when you're ready to eat it, even though it's a vegetable, something that grows from the ground, then it would not go into this category. So therefore, we do rely on this, that if someone is serving you this, the chopped eggs, or the chopped onions, something with chopped onions or other vegetables, you are definitely permitted to eat it. You do not have to say, I'm not up to it, whatever it may be, no excuses. You could eat it because no transgression was done.
Even when they're using like one of these, choppers where you put the item in and it cleans and it cuts.
So,
That thing?
is that one would have to look into, is it considered knives or is that actually a tool? A grater definitely is. One with blades.
You know what I mean? Like you put in a little thing and it chops.
It chops it to, one should not use it. How serious is this? I'd have to look into. Is that something that if it was used, can you not, if a transgression was done on Shabbos, you cannot use it until after Shabbos.
Or then should you say something and you're allowed to
again, so let me look into that.
What did you say about making egg salad? Like you're adding mayonnaise to the egg mixture, making it a dough.
So then you should, to begin with, if you're making that type of egg salad, cut the eggs into larger pieces that each the egg pieces are discernible that they're eggs. They're not made into a small.
So there's clumpy of eggs. Then you can add the mayonnaise.
As long as as long as the pieces are discernible, that you didn't make it into a mess like like the egg salad that you make it very fine, or the same thing for tuna. The mayonnaise should not be added to that.
Oh, okay, but you can add the clumps of onion and clumps of.
Yes. As long as everything is bigger pieces,
You
everything.
shouldn't mash the egg. You should cut the egg.
That's correct. Not to use a masher. That's a special tool.
Unless it's for an infant or something, then you would be allowed to.
Excuse me?
You would be allowed to do that for an infant though.
Oh, so an infant, here goes another, again, when it comes to an infant, they cannot eat bigger pieces than that it would be, for them, it would be the manner of eating the same as we spoke about, taking out the bones from fish that you're going to give to a child who is not able to remove it from their mouth. This is something that is dangerous, something that is the way that the child should be able to eat. Now, crushing something that was finely cut, crushing it is another step, another type of grinding that cannot be done. On page 146 is spreading vegetables in the same category as grinding. Grinding is like taking something that has body to it and cutting it into smaller pieces. That's grinding.
How to know that it's small?
Oh, it should be larger than the Israeli salad. Are you familiar with what Israeli salad looks
Yeah.
like? Make it a little bigger than that. Now what we're doing now is we're spreading out. What do we consider that? Spreading where you're not, to begin with, it's not something that is made into small individual pieces. It's all one mass that remains to be one mass, and it's just being spread out. So let's take avocado that's very soft, and you just spread it out. Or take also a banana that's soft, and you spread it out. Want to feed a baby. So if it's in that state, then there are opinions about it. Over here, he takes the more lenient opinion that it's not considered grinding, it's considered spreading, and spreading is not in the same category. In other circles, they're more strict about it. This book tells us that it does not go into the category of grinding. In other circles, they will be strict about spreading as well. Now, if it does have body to it, we have avocado in different stages where it's not completely ripe, but it's spreadable. In that case, you have to cut it up. In that case, then the halacha of grinding would apply. Same thing is also with banana. Banana matters in what state the banana is. And sometimes you have to cut the banana rather than spread the banana. So what do you do when you're feeding a child? So I would advise that you could scrape the banana as you're feeding the child, and that does the job. You're able to scrape as much as the child needs, and that would be the way to go, rather than chopping the banana down and then trying to mash it, where it comes into a question. The fact that you're feeding the child, that's one thing, but again, since you're able to do it in a way where there's no question at all, one should just scrape the banana with their spoon and feed the child as it goes along. So we will, who was in charge of we will say goodbye. And I guess we end it, put it on end. Leaving meeting.